Question. DS. Is A greater than 2? Condition 1. 1 over A is smaller than 1 over 2. Condition 2. Square root of A is greater than square root of 2. Solution. Let us solve this DS question using the variable approach. Square is important. Ignore the squares and even exponents. Square factors and even exponent factors are always positive. So, multiplying or dividing a term by a non-zero square factor or a non-zero even exponent factor does not affect the direction of the inequality sign. We should ignore the square factor or even exponent factor, whether it is in the denominator or the numerator. The first property of inequality. Multiplying or dividing an inequality by a positive number does not change the direction of the inequality sign. Positive rule in inequality. That is, if A is greater than B, then A times X is greater than B times X, and A over X is greater than B over X, where X is greater than 0. Let us follow the first step of the variable approach by modifying and rechecking the original condition and the question. We are required to verify whether the range A is greater than 2 is true. Follow the second and the third steps. From the original condition, we have one variable, A. To match the number of variables with the number of equations, we need one equation. Since conditions 1 and 2 will provide one equation each, D would most likely be the answer. Recall 3 principles and choose D as the most likely answer. Let us take a look at each condition. Condition 1 tells us that 1 over A is smaller than 1 over 2. If we multiply both sides of this inequality by 2 times A squared, we get 2 times A squared times 1 over A is smaller than 2 times A squared times 1 over 2, which means 2 times A is smaller than A squared, or 0 is smaller than A squared minus 2 times A, or 0 is smaller than A times all of A minus B. You should think of squares when solving inequality questions because squares are always positive and multiplying them to an inequality does not change the direction of the inequality sign by the first property of inequality. A times whole of A minus 2 is greater than 0 means that the factors A and A minus 2 have the same sign. Thus, A is greater than 0 and A minus 2 is greater than 0, or A is smaller than 0 and A minus 2 is smaller than 0. That is, A is greater than 0 and A is greater than 2, or A is smaller than 0 and A is smaller than 2. A is greater than 0 and A is greater than 2 means that A is greater than 2, while A is smaller than 0 and A is smaller than 2 means that A is smaller than 0. Thus, condition 1 gives A is smaller than 0, or 2 is smaller than A. Range A is greater than 2 that we are trying to find does not include the range A is smaller than 0 or 2 is smaller than A, given in condition 1. If A equals -1, then we get no as an answer to whether A is greater than 2. But if A is equal to 3, then we get yes as an answer to whether A is greater than 2. So we have a no and a yes as answers to the question, is A greater than 2? Thus, the condition is not sufficient by CMT1, which states that the answer will be a unique yes or no. Condition 2 tells us that square root of A is greater than square root of 2. If we square this inequality, we get a is greater than 2. The range a is greater than 2 includes the range a is greater than 2, given in condition 2. Thus, the condition is sufficient. Let us look at the graph on the number line as shown below. Question: is a greater than 2? Condition 1. A is smaller than 0 or a is greater than 2. This is not sufficient. Condition 2. A is greater than 2. This is sufficient. Condition 2 alone is sufficient. Thus, B is the correct answer. Answer B.